It's time for blind dates with B-listers. This is Felicity Was Here. Welcome back to Felicity Was Here. I'm Heather.
I'm Melissa. And I'm Dr. Joe.
And today we're discussing Felicity Season 2, Episode 5, Crash. Welcome back, ladies. How's it going?
Hey, nice to talk to you guys. Doing well.
Yeah, good to see you.
I think it's officially Felicity Fall. We had the first day of fall,
Yay!
Oh, yeah.
so it's time for cozy sweaters and Dina DeLuca coffee.
Yay. I think it's supposed to
Yay.
be in like the low 70s here this week. So I'm taking that as a win for fall.
Yeah, it was triple digits a couple weeks ago in SoCal. Last week was 70s. It was gorgeous and kind of overcast, so I was getting some fall vibes, but I think it's going to be 80s again this week, which is fine. It's still lovely, but didn't feel like fall.
Mm.
It's 90s here.
Yeah. Oof,
I don't like it.
it's a lot. Well, this week, as I said, we are talking about Crash, but as a reminder, last week, Felicity and Julie got stuck in a subway and perhaps have started on the path to reconciliation. Ben met Maggie, who was a busy and sometimes quite rude caterer who invited him to a party. Noel and Ruby took their relationship from acquaintances to people who kiss. Today, this episode was written by Josh Rhimes, or Reams, apologies, don't know how to pronounce that, and directed by Robert M. Williams Jr. We open on a scene at Noel and Elena's apartment with a very nice candlelit dinner with the three of them, with Felicity, Noel, and Elena. It felt very romantic for a friend's dinner. It's very moody.
For 3 people with all the candles? What in the world?
Elena's like pouring beverages for them, and yeah, it felt very
Mm.
fancy. Like when I was 19, that's not what I was doing.
No. I was shotgunning natty light, fluorescent lighting. Yeah.
Exactly. I was eating in the dorm cafeteria still. So first off, Elena asks Noel where Ruby is. Weren't they supposed to go out? She's busy, and then she asks Felicity if Felicity's getting any action, which is awkward. She's making them talk about their prospective significant others, or if there are any. But Felicity's like, "Oh my god, Elena, why are you asking? This is uncomfortable." But Elena says she's not getting any action, and she's like, "We got to talk about something." And decides to call out the fact that Noel and Felicity, there's a lot of weirdness and awkwardness between them. They're giving each other looks. She says, "All right, if you guys won't say it, I will." Ruby told Felicity that she thought you, Noel, were hot and it's driving her crazy. And Felicity, Noel's going nuts about the next guy you're going to date. And so, again, they're both very surprised that she's being so blunt, but neither of them want to talk about this stuff and admit it. So Elena's like, "All right, well, you guys can sit here in silence or in awkwardness. I'm going to go study." And there is, in fact, continued awkwardness. They both say, like, "Oh my God, she needs to get some," right? Like sexual tension. And there's still just, you could cut the tension with a knife between them. And that's how we opened the scene. So what do we think? Is it more awkward to talk about it, or is it more awkward to leave it all unsaid?
I don't know about you guys, but I was kind of disappointed that they were like still kind of dragging out the Felicity and Noel stuff at this point. Like I felt like last episode
Mhm.
we were moving past that. They were friends. And now it's all, oh, she's thinking about, how Ruby said you're hot and blah blah blah. I'm like, what? She is? Thought that was done.
I agree. I was not happy that this was lingering still. Like, let's keep going forward.
I think it's natural that exes wouldn't wanna talk about the current people that they're dating. Like, I don't think that's completely out of the norm. So I don't see, in that situation, like, do we have to talk about that? There's nothing else that we could talk about as 3 friends who are trying to move on from this stuff. So, yeah, I didn't think it had to be brought up and that you have to talk about it. Thought that was weird.
Yeah, it would make sense that they wouldn't talk about it, but I don't like that they're making it a thing
Hmm.
like, "Oh, that's driving her crazy. Oh, he's going nuts." Like, okay, fine. I don't wanna see it. I'm over it. I'm ready to do something new. I think in real life, it probably would linger and drag out a little bit maybe, but I don't wanna see that. I'm ready for the next story arc. I'm ready for this to just be resolved
Mm.
already. I'm bored with it.
All right. So then later, though, at their apartment, Noel bought a PlayStation and Elena is aghast. She says that video games, like, this is a time suck. But then Noel waxes poetic about video games and how when he was a kid, he played Super Mario Brothers and it was just so in his Atari and it was so amazing. But Elena says it's pathetic and no wonder he doesn't get any action. He's like, "What? That's not true." He's like, "Well, okay, I don't get a ton of action, but it's not because of video games." He's like, "Video games are cool." And I was thinking of like Halloween Town, like Halloween is cool. Like I felt like he was that girl, like video games are cool. But he was, yeah, talking about how amazing the graphics were. I'm like, okay, as a graphic designer, yeah, maybe he's like impressed and obsessed with that stuff. But he's playing the game Crash Bandicoot.
Oh my
Um,
god, yes.
I don't think I ever played that one
Mhm.
specifically.
I remember my brother playing this game all the time, like, the music stuck in my head. Yeah, he played it 24/7.
I played it because my friend's older brother had it, and then we started playing it because he was playing it and we wanted to do what he was doing. It was fun. I didn't play it obsessively, but I remember it being fun.
Melissa and I played a ton of other
Oh my
games,
god,
but
yeah,
I
we
don't ever
did.
think we played this one
No,
together.
we didn't. No, we didn't play as many PlayStation games. We played a lot of
No,
Nintendo 64 games. Yeah.
I was a Nintendo girl. I did
Mhm.
the other controllers just didn't make sense to me, or I was
Mhm.
so used to Nintendo that I didn't get the other ones, Sega and
Mhm.
all of that. But this also really resonated with me in college because, yeah, I feel like a lot of the guys in the dorms had their video games and, like, they would just sit in their rooms and play video games. We're
Yeah.
like, "Hey, you've got, like, 5 girls in your room here. You wanna talk to us?" And it was just like, we didn't exist. So I thought that that was very reminiscent of college.
Well, I feel like that's even now, like, I know so many of my male friends still play video games all the time. It's just, like, just normal. So when Elena's
Yeah.
like, "That's gross. Why are you doing that?" I'm like, "Huh? That's like 90% of the
Like,
male
oh
population."
yeah.
Don't knock it till you've tried it. Like, I'm sorry to admit or not, I've played Animal Crossing for, like, 8 hours
Mhm.
straight multiple times.
Great.
Like, I could do that I do that all day, like, I'll wake up and just keep playing and playing and playing, and then next thing I know, my whole day's gone. Like, on the weekends? Fuck it.
I
Mhm.
mean, Twitch exists because people play video games for a long time.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. But Elena will learn, she'll see as we'll tell coming up here. But then Felicity tells Sally about what Elena had said about Noel, that, he's thinking about the next guy she's going to date. And she says, honestly, he doesn't have anything to worry about because I'm not dating. And that's actually great. She says there's no expectations, no pressure, no trouble. So she goes to her drawing class, and Professor Sherman wants to talk to her. First, she tells her that her drawing and shading was actually good, which is out of the ordinary. And then she asks her a favor. She also asks Felicity if she has a boyfriend first. Felicity says, not right now. Why? Like, why are you asking this? But Sherman says, "Oh, good. Then I want you to meet my son. He's a grad student, photographer. He's funny. He's sweet. He's very attractive because, of course, he is." And she says that, like, Sherman says she's got an instinct about this. She wants them to meet. Felicity, again, awkward. I feel like awkward was a very
Mm.
big emotion for me in this episode. There's a lot of awkwardness between different people. And yeah, so Felicity now has to say yes or no to her professor about this. What do you think you all would do if you had a professor that asked you to go on
Absolutely
a
not.
date with their kid?
Absolutely not. Never. Because, of course, what if something goes wrong and then you're still with this person? I would say something like, let's wait until I'm no longer in your class and then we could
Uh,
discuss it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea. In addition to the theme and the sense of awkwardness and that tone throughout the episode, was noticing a lot of, like, power control dynamic
mhm.
stuff creeping up, and I think this was one of those it feels like an abuse of power for her to put a student, a professor to put a student in that position to say yes or no, because you can say yes and start dating, and then it goes off the rails and everything's terrible, and then the professor's gonna be pissed, or you could say no, and the professor's gonna be pissed because you said no. So in either case, it's a really inappropriate thing for a professor to put a student into that position. So that was I felt like an abuse of power, even though it's not like as extreme as, what happened last year with McGrath, but I think it's not cool. I think there's lots of like little sprinkles of that in this episode, I felt like, or just that theme popped up, even if it wasn't super obvious.
Yeah, I agree. And it's so uncomfortable, I think, in that moment too, because she's not expecting it. But now she's just told her You did an amazing job. Keep up the good work. You're learning. I'm teaching you something. And now if I say no, are my grades going to suffer again? Are you only giving me this A because you want me to say yes to your question? I totally agree on that. And that adds to the complexity of do you say yes or no? So later, Felicity tells Elena when she asks, well, what'd you do? Did you say yes? And she did tell Sherman no. And she said that she actually has a boyfriend after already saying she didn't have a boyfriend. So Elena's like, well, then what are you stressed about? You said no. But Felicity says that Sherman maybe just gave her an A, like basically to butter her up, what we were saying. But Elena says, don't worry about that. Old people just be like that. They love setting people up. I also thought it was interesting, intentional, I don't know, but, like, talking to Elena about the grade when that's what happened with Elena and McGrath. I thought that was interesting too, that she was getting advice from Elena on this.
Right. But she got the good grade before something happened versus Elena getting the good grade after
Yes,
some
Mhm.
stuff went down. So I did find that kind of awkward too.
but, like, they're both in
Yeah.
this situation. Yeah. So then Julie walks in to Epstein and overhears them talking about this blind date and actually sits down at the table with them. So Elena says that she has to go. She gets up and leaves Felicity and Julie to, again, sit there, in my opinion, awkwardly by themselves for a little while because they're still trying to figure things out after the subway incident. So Julie asks where Noel is. He's out, but Julie says, well, I have muffins. What if we stay and have breakfast? So her and Felicity actually sit and chat and have breakfast, which is a nice peace offering, I think.
That was
Yeah.
nice. But it was after she's like, "Where's Noel?"
Yeah.
And she sounded afraid when she asked it, like, "Where's Noel?" And then she accepted that he wasn't coming, and then she seemed, like, really relaxed after she seemed so alarmed that there wasn't another buffer person there, then it seemed like she, like, really relaxed really fast, and I was like, "What?" That was weird.
I was just surprised she even offered the muffins and to stay at the
That's
I
what
thought she
I
would've been like,
mean.
"Okay, well, I gotta go." Yeah,
Exactly, exactly. I'm like, "Why?" I was surprised she didn't just pop up and be like, "Well, you wouldn't wanna be ya."
but nice olive branch. So Julie asks Felicity if she's going to go on the blind date with her professor's son. I think Felicity tells her she says no, but Julie says that she actually likes blind dates, or rather just dates in general. Felicity tells Julie that she's just not in the frame of mind to date right now. Julie says, well, that's why you should only date B list people. And B list people are the guys that you wouldn't go out with normally, because after a breakup, you wouldn't even recognize an A list guy if you saw one. So the B list guys are there just to exercise the dating muscle. She says that that's what she did after her Ben breakup. Again, then there was that little dig at the end, which
Yeah,
felt, ugh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Just
yeah.
keep your mouth shut, Julie.
Aw.
It's like, we know you're already talking about a breakup. Like, that's what I did after my rotten breakup. Okay. We were on such a good path.
I feel like she rubbed it in too much. I think she was just saying it like, we have something to relate on, but, like, it's not the best thing. Like, they're kinda grasping right now to get back on solid ground in their friendship, and this is some common ground they have, so I don't know if she was trying to do that. I didn't take it really nasty, like a jab actually this time. I was just like, "Oh, yeah, that's just more awkward stuff."
That's nice of you. I just take everything she says as nasty.
Oh,
Yes,
boy.
I feel like she could have just said, like, but, like, that's what I do
Yeah.
after a breakup. It
Right.
has to be after my Ben breakup. Like, a reminder.
It was
Yeah.
weird, but I didn't think it was, like, malicious.
I don't know. I don't think it was super malicious. I was just like, we're on such a good path. And then you had to bring Ben up. But I feel like Melissa and I, we've brought up the A list, B list thing many times in our friendship too, throughout
I
college and
know.
whatever. Like, I feel like that is something that I've come back to in my life
I was
too.
just going to say, I feel like 95% of the dudes I dated were B-list people. Ugh.
I'm still single, so I won't argue.
I mean, I never sought them out. Like, after a breakup, I wasn't like, "Oh, I'm gonna go date someone who's just okay." Like, I was always trying to find an A, but no, just lots of Bs coming my way back in the day.
Lots of bees.
Just lots of some
I was gonna
Cs.
say, I feel, yeah, lots of
I'm
bees.
dying. Lots of bees coming my way. Oh my gosh,
They
I'm
find
dying.
me. They found me. I have an A now, everyone. I have an A, but I had a lot of Bs.
It's totally. You did have some duds. You had some, like, F
Oh
minuses.
gosh. I mean, we could do a whole podcast about all the doofuses I've
I mean, I
dated,
did too.
but yeah.
Yeah. Doofuses, yes. Same. Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
But speaking of Ben, Now we go sorry, not that he's a B. I just
No.
she brought up Ben. Julie brought up Ben. So speaking of Ben in that sense,
Yeah, good segue.
now we move over to Dean and DeLuca, where we actually get Felicity and Ben's first scene together since episode 2. I noticed that last episode. I was like, instead of necklace watch, I'm gonna do a count of how many episodes it takes before they're in the same scene again. Because she had, like rescheduled all of her work. She's been avoiding him. There was like one brief scene where she saw him in a distance and just like walked by, but they haven't interacted since the actual breakup, since Felicity's speech. So I was like, "Oh my god, we're finally getting a scene with them together." So they're working together, but she wasn't expecting it because again, she rearranged her whole life to avoid him. So Ben says like, "Is this a problem? Me being here working together?" She says, "No, actually, I need help." So he drags in, I'm assuming a big bag of coffee beans into the store. Maggie shows up. Felicity tells Maggie she'll be right there to help her, but Maggie wants Ben to serve her. She orders a muffin and coffee. Maggie and Ben have their little banter back and forth. Ben says that he tried to call her. Maggie says her pager wasn't working though. And meanwhile, Felicity is, kind of eavesdropping and side eye watching this all go down. So then Maggie tells Ben that she's trying something new with her muffins and she wants Ben to try them. He says, "Well, I've got class tomorrow afternoon." She's like, "Oh my God, class." Like she's just realizing how young he is. So then Maggie decides, "Well, what about tomorrow evening? You don't have class in the evening, do you?" He says, "No, he doesn't have class in the evening." So he's going to go try her muffins.
Oh my god. Scandalous. She's grooming him for sure.
Gross.
There is more stuff
Mm.
happening. Like she was like, I want my coffee black, blah, blah,
Mm.
blah, her muffin, this and that. And he's like, oh, I make a mean cappuccino. Do you want to try one of those? She's like, I said I want my coffee black.
I know what I
Yeah.
like.
She dropped the hammer just like he was just trying to be cute.
You like younger
Mm.
men? Okay.
Yeah, she got like really, it was not even like a cutesy, flirty type of like, I know what I like. Like it was like, don't fucking tell me what to do.
Mhm.
I ordered what I ordered. I said what I said. Give me what I want.
Yeah.
It was not cute and light. It was like she's establishing her power already.
Mhm.
I was like, whoa, girl, settle down. It's just coffee. It wasn't like forcing it down your throat. He was just trying to be nice. Like, cool it.
Yeah. Aside from their, like, age difference, I just never thought that they had very good chemistry at all. Like, I'm not against, like, an older woman going with a younger dude, but I just never felt like they had any sort of spark or chemistry. It was so forced.
I mean, I think I've said before, like, he could have chemistry with a mop.
I was going to remind you if you forgot.
Mhm.
I was like waiting for this. I'm like, hold up, hold up.
But in the last episode, she was such a jerk. I'm like, why is he attracted to her?
Yeah.
Like, she was such an a-hole
Yeah.
to him and everyone. Like, I wouldn't be attracted to that. So, I don't know.
And also, he, like, didn't wanna be with Felicity because he just wanted something not serious and just, like, casual, but this lady seems, like, intense and
A
would
whole
be
adult.
kinda like yeah, so, I don't know.
She's clearly not a serious person, though.
Mhm.
If she, I don't know, if she's going after, so like, they have nothing in common. What are you doing? I don't know.
She's trying to do him.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
that is what she's
That's
doing.
it,
She's
yeah.
trying to do him.
Want
Yeah.
them to try her muffin.
Yeah, and all the muffin innuendo, man. Ugh,
Goodness,
very
yes.
obvious. It was very on the nose. Felicity saw all this happening, so now she tells Sally, I mean, maybe I should start dating. Just get out there. Ben and Noel are obviously moving on because she's seeing them with their various conquests. So, back at Noel and Elena's, Noel is still playing on his PlayStation. Now he's even skipping classes to play his video game. Elena says, couldn't you just pause it? He says, I mean, theoretically, yes, I could, but he's having too much fun. I just wanted to ask Melissa, did you love Elena's furry bucket
Oh my
hat?
god. Gross. Dead animal climbed into a fucking rusty bucket.
I thought it was giving Clueless. I feel like they wore big hats and
Oh,
Clueless like that. That's the vibe I was
yeah.
getting.
That was a thing.
Hmm.
Yeah, they did have some obnoxious hats. I was like trying to figure it out. I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? And I was like straight up bucket hat would have been better than whatever that thing was. But I was like, well, at least it's color coordinated with their outfit.
But she was wearing it with like a button up collared shirt too. Like that didn't match in my opinion. It wasn't like,
She's wearing a pink shirt.
but it like wasn't like a cool graphic tee with a bucket. It was like button up shirt and a furry bucket hat. It was weird.
but I was like, "Oh, I don't know about that hat girl.
Mm-mm.
I don't know."
It was very furry.
I think that
But then the phone rings. It's Ruby calling for Noel, but he is furiously still playing his video game and trying to balance the cordless phone on his shoulder and talk at the same time, but drops the phone. He's like, I'm coming, Ruby. Hold on. I dropped the phone, Ruby. I can't find the phone. Hold on. He eventually does pause it and go talk to her. And while he is talking to Ruby on the phone, Elena decides to pick up the controller and give it a try. So she's now playing Crash Bandicoot, probably not very well because she doesn't know what she's doing. And Noel shouts, You're ruining my lives. Ruby thinks he's talking to her, says, No, it's not you, Ruby. He's telling Elena to repause. He eventually gets off the phone with Ruby, and she says, What the hell is repause supposed to mean? He's like, Repause, repause. And I think about that often, that scene a lot in my life. Repause. Because it's funny.
his faces he was making were so obnoxious. Like, I like that he was getting into the game, like, I like seeing the energy of video game playing, like, I'm good with that, that's all fine, but it was his faces didn't seem congruent to the content that was shown on the screen. Like, he wasn't fighting a boss at that point, like,
Yeah.
he's just, like, catching the little, like, gems or whatever he's supposed to be doing, like, I'm like, "Why are you wiggling around in your seat so much and, like, contorting your face like this?" Like, it was like the exorcism of Emily Rose or something, like, he was contorting too much. It was like I was like, "Calm down, like, you're not doing anything serious right now." It was too much. It was like, but, that's Noel for you, a little over the top.
So then Felicity goes back to Professor Sherman to tell her she will actually meet her son. Sherman tells her, Great, how about tomorrow night? Felicity asks, Shouldn't we ask David first? Sherman says, Nah, I'll call him. Says, But wear something light. You got to brighten up your face and maybe a little bit of color on your
Oh
lips.
my god.
And leaves. And again,
Absolutely not. I'd be like, "Nope, nope, you just said that, I'm done." Absolutely not. That's disgusting and
Yeah,
rude.
that's already yeah, and controlling again. Like, so controlling.
and not even asking the son if he wants to do
Mm.
That
this.
too.
I wouldn't want to go on the date anymore if it was like, wait, he doesn't even know he's doing this? No.
Yeah, like, there's not an enthusiasm behind it.
So then back in Felicity's room, Carl is bothering Felicity and Megan, saying that he's sick. Like, well, maybe it's because your hygiene habits are
Mm.
not up to par. Just a thought.
Yeah, or, like, eating your hair might make you feel make your tummy
You should
hurt,
maybe shower. I
buddy.
don't know. But Megan suggests that he gets his rich parents to send him some money, buy a fridge, and then get his own food, and then kindly leave. Then Megan tells Felicity that some guy named David called, said to meet him at some restaurant at some time. Oh, and I also accidentally maybe deleted the message. So Felicity is, of course, upset because she's got this date with the guy, doesn't know when to meet him. Megan says, Well, just call him. She says, Well, I can't. It's a blind date. I don't have his number. Megan says, Wait a minute. You're going on a blind date? You've reached a new sub basement of pathetic. Felicity tells her that he's a grad student, son of her art teacher. Megan says, Oh my God, I have one word for you, Gay, gay. Have fun. So, yeah, that's Megan's thoughts.
Why did you think he was gay?
Oh,
Because he's a
Megan.
grad student or he's the son of an art teacher?
Grad student, mother who's setting him up,
Oh, okay. The
blind
mother thing.
date with,
Okay.
yeah, I
I
think.
was like, "What? It's just because he's a son of an art teacher? Bitch." Not that there's anything wrong with that. Hmm.
I also don't think blind dates mean you're pathetic,
No.
but I could see, I mean, this is Megan's shtick, so
It's
yeah.
Megan, yeah.
Then at Noel and Elena's, the video game is currently paused when they both arrive back home at the same time. Elena says, Noel, if you have to go to the bathroom, like, you should feel free to do that. He doesn't have to go to the bathroom, though, but she can go if she has to. They both rush to the PlayStation, but Elena beats Noel there. And he's pointing out, like, what happened to video games being a time suck. Elena basically said, I do what I want to do. So he says, Wait a minute, I can tell you've been practicing. She, in fact, was tutoring someone who taught her, or she played the video game while he was studying. So Noel says, Okay, the best way to beat this is to be a team. It'll be good for us. She's like, Wait, you mean like taking turns? He's like, Yep, good idea. And takes the controller. And this is just such a sibling relationship. I find it very funny.
It is funny, and it's like, they're literally fighting over control of the controller, which is just I think that was just, like, a little subtle another theme of control. Again, I love to reach, and I have I go crazy with some of that stuff, but I thought it was just a little sprinkle, an extra little to the control theme.
I love that.
Or not. Oh, okay.
I love that. Now it's Felicity's first post-Ben date. She's nervous. She's telling Sally that she's starting to daydream. Like, what if they actually end up liking each other? What if they hit it off? She always dreams about just things clicking with the right person. See David walk in the restaurant in slow motion. She thinks maybe it's Sherman's son who I'm just going to click with. Maybe he's the right person, right? So David walks up to her. She says, "Are you Dave?" "Yeah." "Felicity?" "Yeah." He's like, "I guess let's go get a table," and walks away. So maybe it's not David. Have
Ouch.
have you all been on a blind date before?
Was trying to remember if I had, because figured it would come up, but I can't think of a time I have.
I've never been on a blind date where I had no clue what they looked like, but I feel like online dating is sometimes like that because you see like one or two pictures and, 80% of the time they don't look anything like their picture. So it is kind of a surprise each time, like, "Oh, that's you?"
Or it's, like, blurry and you're like,
Yeah.
"Is that the guy? I
Yeah.
can't tell." Yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't really know anything about them. You've
Yeah.
never met them and yeah.
Right.
Have you?
Me?
Mhm.
Uh, one I mean, if we're not including dating app dates, I think it was high school. Melissa, our mutual friend, had a boyfriend who was a pilot, and I think she was trying to get me a date for homecoming or something with one of his friends. And so, like, we all met up and, like, flew in the guy's plane, but, like, you can't hear anything in the plane unless you have the headphones and you're, like, in the front seat with the headphones. So, like, me and the guy were just, like, in the back row, like, not talking the entire day. It was so
What?
uncomfortable and awkward.
I was not invited to this hangout. What happened?
You probably had a date. I don't know.
I absolutely did not.
I don't even remember his name. I don't remember the friend's name.
Oh.
But yeah, it was super awkward, and so we didn't talk the whole time, then it was like, how about homecoming?" I'm like, "We literally said nothing to each other. I'm
Oh,
not dating this guy.
okay.
Not taking this guy to homecoming, who I don't know."
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah, it was awkward.
I haven't been on any blind dates, but I have set them up for other people. I just remembered. One of them was terrible.
No.
Another one, I set these two people up, my classmate and my roommate, but I had another roommate and he did show up. Like we were hanging out and my classmate and that guy hit it off and they got married and they have 2 kids.
Oh,
And I give
nice.
myself all the credit, even though I totally did not plan it that way. I was trying to go a different direction with it, but you're welcome.
That's amazing. So you
I
do
love
you
it.
do
I
have
just
some
love it.
success with it then.
I just every time I see their posts on Facebook, their kids are getting older and like they're succeeding and they're really good at like their martial arts things or like, academic stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they made this beautiful little family and it's all because of me.
So
No, it's
cute.
not. But I
I
make it
mean,
about
if
me.
you set it up, it kind of is because of you.
Kind of. It was good.
Well, then we go back to Ben, who goes to Maggie's office/kitchen. He's very impressed with her whole setup. She says that she started just in her kitchen and did everything herself for 6 years. And again, I'm just thinking, ma'am, you're a business owner. Why are you hanging around a college sophomore? I felt so uncomfortable this whole time,
Mm,
just
mm,
really
mm.
thinking about that. Like, you're a whole
Yeah.
ass business owner. You've been doing at least 6 years, you were doing stuff all by yourself. Now you've got a big like, you've been doing this a long time. I was so uncomfortable. So she says that the staff all went home, so it's so quiet there. It's just the two of them. He asks about the muffins that she, dangled in front of his face before. And now she happens to be all out of muffins. So that's not good as well. Then she says, "How about an apple tart?" The first thing I thought of was like Adam and Eve reference. Like, oh, taste the apple. Like
Oh
that
my.
was the first thing that where my mind
Oh,
went.
man.
My
Ugh.
mind went somewhere else.
Oh,
Oh, do tell.
Oh.
do tell.
Well, I was offended because she kinda shoved it in his
Yeah.
mouth, like, she kinda shoved it in
Mm.
his face because I was like, why is she able to say no to his cappuccino when he's lightly suggesting it, but he can't say no to her apple
Yeah.
tart?" Like, he literally could not, like, she was, like,
She
right
fed
there
it
in
to
his
him, didn't
face.
she? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I was like, the
It's
again,
creepy.
just reminding me of their power dynamic and how much more assertive/aggressive she is compared to him, and her just taking control of the situation.
Mhm.
I didn't like it.
And after he takes a bite, she's caressing his face because supposedly he has something on his mouth, and we can all see there's nothing there. Luckily, the phone rings. The answering machine picks it up, so we can all hear what it is, and it's a catering emergency, so she does have to answer the phone. Ben is polite and decides to, see himself out. He's like, "Hey, maybe we'll get dinner tomorrow." She says, "That sounds great." So, unfortunately, not over yet. I also don't love that she brought him there under false pretenses. Like, yeah, he's not a dummy. He knows, like, she doesn't need his expert opinion on a new recipe for muffins. It just goes to show that, like, I don't know, you can't trust what she says, in my opinion. Like, "Oh, I'm all out of muffins." I'm like, "Well, how convenient. You brought me here for muffins. So what do you want?" Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't like
He
anything
was a
about her.
so this was some trick.
Uh-huh.
Like, coulda just been over and been like, "Let's bang at my
Mhm.
bakery." Like,
Mhm.
coulda just led with that. You don't have to pretend,
Mm.
lady.
Yeah. Back on the blind date, Felicity is trying very hard to make something out of nothing here. She asks him all kinds of questions, asks him about his photography and, like, did he always want to do photography? And he's like, "Oh, I always liked pictures." Cool guy. He's starting to polish off a bottle of wine, giving one word answers about everything. Just wanted to pause here. I feel like, as the only single lady left on this podcast, this is how a lot of dates go. This is how a
Mm.
lot of, like, dating app conversations go.
Mhm.
It's like pulling teeth. It's rough out there,
Mhm.
folks.
I believe you.
So I felt very seen and heard in this scene because this is how a lot of it goes. Not saying they're all like that, but a good majority of them. Then the waitress stops by and asks, "How is everything?" Felicity says, "Well, the food is delicious. Like, food's great. Can't say anything about anything else." And David orders another bottle of wine in French, as pretentious as possible, and orders in French. Oh, might as well make it as many as it will take to disappear. So at that, Felicity excuses herself to go to the bathroom. But she's actually using the payphone to call Elena, but of course, Elena and Noel don't pick up because they're playing Crash Bandicoot, so they don't answer. So then Felicity calls Julie, which brought me back to when Felicity was on her maybe date with Noel and calling
Mhm.
Yes.
and her on the payphone from that restaurant. So I was like,
Yeah, that was a great
oh, little
callback.
callback, yeah.
Yeah.
And Julie did on the phone, didn't hang up on her, and started to coach her through it. So Felicity says that the blind date with her B list guy is a disaster. Now she knows what the B stands for. I'm guessing bastard? Is that? Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
Julie says, "Well, if it's just that bad, like, just leave." Felicity says, "Thank you. I'll call you later," which I thought was an interesting way to sign off. Like, we'll dish later. Like, oh, we're at that point already? Okay.
Mhm.
Interesting.
Right?
So Felicity walks back to the table, grabs her coat, and in French tells David that she has never been on such a bad date. Never. And he leaves. And I thought that was such a talking about power. That was a power move. I loved it. But he
Awesome.
does seem a little surprised for some reason. I mean, probably embarrassed too, but he did seem a little surprised. So wasn't expecting that from her.
This was great, though,
Hmm.
because wasn't Sally her French tutor?
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Because I was like, "This bitch knows some French, like, really fluently." Like, she's just letting it roll out, and I was like, "Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Sally was her French tutor. She should know French. This is great. I love
I
it.
knew she knew French, but I
It's
couldn't
not
remember
totally
how I knew
random."
that. That's why. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I thought that was great.
Hmm. So then back at the apartment, Noel and Elena are stuck on a level, frustrated. Noel's getting kind of scruffy. I could tell he's not up to his hygiene at the moment. Elena says that her cousin has some connections in the video game world if they get desperate. And I love that this was pre-internet when you couldn't just, like, Google spoilers and cheats and, like, how to get past
Like
certain
the
levels.
walkthrough.
Yeah, like, you can always Google, like, how to get.
Can't YouTube it,
Yeah, you
yeah.
can't YouTube, you can't Google, like, how to get through certain levels or tricks or hints or anything like that, so I thought it
You
was
had to
funny.
know a guy who knew a guy.
Mhm. But Noel says he's not gonna get advice from a geeky computer programmer. I was like, "Pot calling kettle black."
Like, he was just called a geek episode ago, like,
Uh-huh.
she was like, "You're a real geek, huh?" And now he's calling other people geeks. I'm
Uh-huh.
like, "You fool."
I
I thought it was
guess
a
there's
little funny.
levels to being a geek.
Or different, like, sub-genres of geek.
Yeah, he's a graphic designer, I guess, not a geek, because he's not a programmer. I don't know, but I thought that was funny. Meanwhile, Felicity rings on the doorbell, asking if Elena's home. I also laughed at this because Elena's playing the video game, screams in the background, "No!" So Noel says, she's not home. I laughed at that. So opens the door. Felicity walks in. Elena asks how Felicity's date was, but her and Noel are still just playing the video game while Felicity tells them. So she says the date was terrible. She says, "I called you guys. Where were you?" They're like, "Oh, yeah, sorry, we were busy." But they're really not paying attention to her. Now they're saying they can't go out with her because of this video game. And Felicity's getting frustrated. She says, "This game is like heroin, but worse." I'm like, don't know about
I
that.
was like, "Girl, no." I was like, "That's a little bit too far. You've gone too far this
Like,
time."
oh, so sheltered.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, "Don't say that." Like, that's just real.
But they're, again, not listening, not paying attention. So she said, "Great, this is fun, but I have to go experience the real world, outside." So she leaves and they don't even notice. So back in her room, Felicity's on her computer when Megan comes back in to accessorize in one of her most iconic outfits, I think, like with all the strappy things around the sleeve and those earrings with, I don't even know what those are. I mean, just crazy, but probably one of her most iconic outfits, I feel like.
And I loved her makeup too, the shimmer. I loved
Everything,
it, I loved
black,
it.
lipstick, I mean, all of it, yeah.
She looked incredible.
So Megan asks if Carl has been around because he's been driving her nuts. Then she brings up the blind date. She says, "I guess you weren't axe murdered by your blind date. It was terrible, wasn't it?" Felicity doesn't object, though. Megan says, "Oh, man, am I right? Or will we always right or what?" I'm like, "Well, you were half right. Like, yeah, it was terrible, but he's not gay. Like, he was just a bad date." So as Megan goes to leave and opens the door, David appears. He asks Felicity if they can talk alone, even though he's probably the last person she wants to see. So Megan opens the door wider, but she does not leave. David asks Felicity if they can go out again, but Felicity's like, "What? Like, why? It was horrible. Have you ever thought about asking someone a question? There's a give and take to having a conversation. You have the take part down, but you were self absorbed, bad mannered, and bitter. The answer is no." Megan, meanwhile, is loving it. She's like eating up the drama, watching it all go down. David says that it was the first date he's had in a while in like months. I'm like, "Oh, months. Okay. Like that's not that long, buddy." Like you forget how to be a human being after a couple of months, but okay. He says he's been a mess, that he was in France on a photo shoot. His girlfriend was supposed to come and meet up with him, and she did show up, but she said she's getting married to his best friend since he was 6. And I just want to pause there. Like, what?
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Your
That was a lot.
girlfriend of a year comes to why would you even go to France to meet him and then be like, "I'm getting married now to your best friend?" Like that was wild. Like when you
Mhm.
just call someone
Yeah,
be like, "Oh no, I'm in love." Like
yeah.
you waited till you were going to get married? I don't know.
Just tell him when he
Crazy.
comes back home.
How did that happen?
Right.
How did, like, they get engaged
I
so
don't
fast? Like, how
know.
long
Mhm.
was he gone? That I was stunned. I was like, "That's a soap opera twist." Like, that's next level
Mhm.
plot twist
Mhm.
right there.
Like that was a long photo shoot in France.
Like, they could have worked with that and made it a little bit more believable. Like, that's such an extreme devastation.
Yeah.
So weird.
Like, why
Mm,
why show up at that point? Like, you're already dubbing it, like, do it over the phone, it's already terrible.
yeah.
Oof. So he says he's tried dating a few times since then, but his world has kind of been upside down. He's like, "Or maybe I'm just a jerk. I probably deserve everything you said." But he does say he's sorry and leaves. And Megan says, "I think you were a little harsh on him," as she goes to leave. Which
I
is,
love that.
yeah, Megan. Oh, man.
Yeah, she thought he was hot. She was into it. It's like, "If you don't want him, I'll take him."
I think that's later. So what do we think? Was Felicity too harsh?
No, I think Megan was just being silly because she thought the guy was so hot.
And she likes
Clearly
she
she was
likes to rib.
interested.
She likes
Mhm.
to rib Felicity.
Yeah,
Felicity can do nothing
yeah.
right.
But she seemed googly-eyed while she was looking at him.
Really? I'm gonna have to rewatch that. I just
I don't
thought
know,
I just thought she was like liking the ping pong back and forth and someone getting chewed out.
Hey, Well, she could have just, like, walked out immediately, but she like, that pause made me think like, "Ooh, what's going on?" Like, she was trying to check him out. That's what I got.
Oh, so you think David's her type. Interesting.
Well, he was, like, dark and brooding, like,
It's
looks
true.
kind of intense.
That's true. So then we see Ben and Maggie are walking back from dinner, and Ben invites her back to the loft for coffee, which he doesn't have, much like the muffins that were not there. But there's no coffee, but there is a ton of smoothies at the loft. So Maggie does go back to the loft with them. Sean's giving her a pitch on the smoothies. He wants her to have it at her catered parties because he says going to a catered party is like going to jail. You basically have to eat anything because that's your only choice. That's all you've got. So he's insulting her basically. Sean makes her taste the smoothies. It looks clumpy and gross. Sean says it's in the R&D phase. Ben says, "Why don't you give her a call when it's in the edible phase?" Which I laughed out loud at.
That was
Yeah.
clever.
How about when it's in the edible phase? So Sean does leave. Ben apologizes to Maggie, like, you didn't have to do that. Maggie goes to leave as well. But Ben says, like, oh, I don't have class in the morning. I got nothing to do all night. He kisses her and says that he thinks she should stay. Asks, how old is he anyway? And Ben shuts the door.
Now she asks? Come
Barf.
on.
Yeah, like, I mean, he's obviously not in high school or something. It's not like he's, like, 17 or 16 or something.
Yeah,
It's gross.
I thought
gross.
I thought it was hot when he closed the door.
Yeah. I mean, if it was me, but I'm
Yeah, exactly, exactly,
a
yeah.
muffin lady.
And yeah, as
No.
if, again, no one owes anyone anything, but like she already went back to the loft with him. And now she's asking how old. Like you already went on a date with him. Like you're asking now. It's a little late for that. And you've been pursuing him this whole time. So yeah, I just really dislike her.
Yeah, I don't like them together, and I don't like her a whole bunch, and she's awful.
But the next morning, Maggie is already getting up and getting dressed when Ben wakes up. She says she would kill for a cup of coffee. Ben is being very kind to her, asking when he can see her again. And she says that that's not a good idea. He's like, wait, what? What does that mean? Like, what are you talking about? She says that they both just got caught up in the moment. Ben says that he doesn't care how much older she is than him, but she claims that that's not it. She's just got to go, and she says she'll call him later.
I felt so bad for him. Like, what are you doing? Like, why are you messing with him like this? Like, these mixed signals, and I felt so sad for him because he seemed disappointed. But I was also thinking, does he feel disappointed or disappointing? Like, does he feel like he did something wrong or something? I
Hmm.
just felt sad for him.
Yeah, I don't like that she's framing it as if it just kind of happened and they got lost in the
Right.
moment and we were just friends. Like she's been pursuing him
Yeah.
this whole time. That's what I
Aggressively.
didn't like. We're just like, what do you?
Yeah, exactly. It's like the mixed signals. It's very, very confusing and off-putting and off-settling and just and that's part of power and control dynamic stuff too to confuse the person. And I don't think she's like a full-on abuser, but just there's these little things that she does that I'm like, ew.
Well, then she said, she says it's not a good idea to see each other again, but then she says she'll call him later. I'm like, that right there is
Or what?
confusing.
Mhm.
Like, don't say you're going to
Exactly.
call me later if you're not.
Yeah. Dumb.
Yeah. Back to Felicity's room. She's packing up her bag when Megan and Carl both come in with his fridge. He thinks it needs to be fixed. And so Megan said that she would take it. The repairman comes to their dorm room to fix it. Carl is going on about botulism and making sure that the fridge is, cold enough to prevent all of that stuff. I'm like, wait, so now he cares about germs? It's very, very confusing. I don't get Carl. Maybe that's just his shtick. It's a different thing every week. I don't know. But Megan pushes him out. Felicity asks, what's with the fridge? She says, oh, he was complaining about the fridge. There's nothing wrong with it, though. He just didn't have the thermostat up. So I told him we'd fix it, but now we both have separate fridges. So she basically took Carl's fridge from him. Felicity heads to work, and at Dean and DeLuca, she gets another unexpected visit from David. And this time he's got a rose for her and cookies in case she doesn't like flowers. She does feel a little uncomfortable. She's like, I don't know what I've done to deserve this. What would you have done if they had a good date? But David says that this is what he would want someone to do if they had treated me the way I treated you on our date. So he is trying to make it up to her. He said his family had been on his case to go on dates, like not an excuse, but he is really sorry. She does say apology accepted and that they're kind of in the same boat. She's coming off of a breakup too, and she tells him about Julie's B list theory and that he was just supposed to be a B list date. So they have a little laugh. And David says that he was so busy sabotaging the date that he didn't bother looking at her or listening to what she was saying. And now he wishes he had. So he asks one more time, please, will you give me another chance? And she says, yes, one more. So then back with the gamers, Elena's now on the phone. Noel is flat on his back. He's exasperated. He says it's like Super Mario Brothers all over again, where he gets so close he can taste it, and then it all just falls apart. Elena got the number of a guy from her cousin who can help them get past this level. Then back at Dean and DeLuca, Felicity's leaving as Ben's arriving, and he asks her about her blind date. She says it didn't go well, but they're going to try again tonight. Asks Ben if he's seeing anybody. He says he doesn't really know. Felicity asks if it was the woman the other day who was, older. Ben says, not old. Like, she's not old. She's like, no, no, I didn't mean that in a bad way. But she says, well, I hope it works out for you. He says, yeah, you too. What do we think about that?
Which part?
Just the conversation between them.
Seemed light and easy. Like it didn't seem as awkward as the other conversations that have been taking place in the episode. It seemed much easier to get through and more natural.
Yeah, it's interesting that the two of them could kind of talk a little bit about their dating lives, but at the beginning of the episode, it was hard for Elena when she was talking about Felicity and Noel and their dating life, and they felt awkward. I don't know. I guess I would assume that it would still be a little bit awkward for Felicity and Ben, too.
So then at the loft, Sean is mixing more smoothies in his R&D phase. Ben comes home and asks if anyone called for him. Sean says, no. And then, oh, wait, yeah, your mother called. Ben says, my mom called? It's like, oh, your mother? I meant your lover. And they all have a laugh, I guess. I don't know. Is that a guy joke? I don't get it. I don't see what's so funny here.
Well, because she's an older woman. I thought it was great delivery. I thought
It was good
I thought it
delivery,
was
but I'm like,
yeah.
okay, not that
Yeah.
old. I don't know.
Yeah, but he's gotta tease Ben and make things difficult for him.
Yeah.
That's his thing.
So yeah, Sean says, "No, I get it. It's cool. Like you're at your sexual prime. She's at her sexual prime. It's perfect." And again, I don't like stop talking about people's sexual primes. But yeah, I guess now Maggie did call. She left her new pager number. But again, Sean says, "Watch out with her. Think she's out of your league." So who should Ben date, Sean? Like he
Right.
literally has something to say
Yeah.
about every woman.
That's what I was wondering
Yeah.
too. Like he said this before. It's like, oh, you're back at it again. Like, do you want him to be single or what? Like, what are you? I don't get it. Like, who's going to be the right match for him? It's Julie.
He doesn't,
didn't criticize
he
her.
doesn't yeah, but I don't think he would want her to date Julie again because he wants Julie for himself.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
but yeah, maybe he can only just see Julie as the perfect woman. I don't know.
Maybe.
Then Felicity and David are on their next date. He's describing his photography, and they bond over their overbearing parents. So Felicity says that it's crazy how parents have all these expectations for you before you're even grown up. And David adds that he feels like such a disappointment. So they cheers to being two disappointments. So we can see they are actually hitting it off now. Have some common ground. Then back to the apartment. Elena is on the phone with the nerd who can help them get past the boss level. Noel has now grown a neck beard and his hair is like standing up straight on every end and his hair is totally whack. Elena relays the tips from the guy on the phone to Noel to try them all out, but they're not working. Guy on the phone says that Noel just probably isn't very good at this game. Noel grabs the phone and says, listen up, jackass. Are you just some moron who has nothing better to do than sit around and give bad advice? And then he pauses, hands the phone to Elena and says he's crying. Elena says, it's because he's 7. So Noel realizes, oh shit, I've got to quit this. And I did learn on the Dear Felicity podcast in one of the very first episodes, Greg Grunberg was talking about the fact that this was actually a real life situation with him and JJ, who were childhood friends. They would, I guess, play video games all the time. And this literally happened where they called up like someone's cousin and one of them started chewing him out on the phone and learned like, oh, he's 10. It's like calling him a jackass and all that. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. But that actually happened in real life.
That's a nice inside story.
Yeah.
I'm just confused. Why did Elena let him keep talking? Because she's the one, like, he's 7 and he's, like, years old. And, like, she knew the whole time she was talking to a child. Like, why did she let him, like, why didn't she, like, rip the phone away from him and not let him say all that garbage? Or just, like, or, like, smack him and be like, Hey, knock it off. Like, it's just a kid. Like, why didn't she do something? I mean, obviously, we needed to see that play out.
Yeah.
I'm surprised, like, that her as a person, that character wouldn't intervene and just let it, she would just, like, let it play out, let some little kid get chewed out like that.
I don't know.
I don't see that happening, but okay.
Or that,
We
like,
had to see him hit rock bottom, I
she
guess.
wouldn't have said this from the start, like, "My cousin is a kid who loves video game,"
Yeah.
I'm surprised it didn't come up sooner, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's funny. Maybe they were both just lost in the haze of Crash Bandicoot that they weren't thinking straight, I don't know.
No, but she's criticized him before when he was being mean, like, when he was taking jabs at Felicity and stuff. Like, she's put him in check or tried to before. So that's why it's so stunning that she would just let him go off like that without saying anything.
Video games are bad, kids.
Mm.
So after their makeup date, Felicity and David are walking around and in slow motion. We see him grab her hand to hold, which I thought was very intimate already. I don't
Mhm.
know, maybe I'm weird.
Yeah.
I think hand holding
Mm.
is very intimate. So that was
Yeah, I was surprised,
yeah,
yeah, to see
Yeah.
them doing that at this stage because they started off so rocky. I was like, "Oh, what's all this
one date.
then?"
Yeah,
Yeah.
one real
Yeah.
date.
That's a lot for the first real date.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's also older, more mature. I don't know. But yeah, I was like,
Mm.
"Oh, okay." But he walks her back to her dorm room and says he had a great time. He says goodnight and that it would be an honor to be her B-list person. So he doesn't, pull any other moves. So maybe he just thinks that that's romantic or, I don't know, traditional or whatever. But yeah, I thought that the hand holding was interesting. So, but I guess Felicity doesn't go into her room because she then goes to Noel and Elena's, knocks on their door. Noel opens up. She kind of peeks in, sees that they're not playing the video game anymore. Says, "Nah, I kind of realized I'm too mature for video games." But Elena's not home, so he tells Felicity to come in and hang out. He was wrapping a book for Ruby, so Felicity was picking that up and looking at it, said that the book sounds fun, sounds cool, asks what she did tonight, and Felicity says she grabbed dinner. Didn't mention with whom. He said he was thinking of grabbing coffee right now. Does she want to come? And she says yes. And I think that the looks that they're exchanging in this scene is also intense and there's still chemistry happening there while Noel is also still talking about Ruby. He's buying her gifts. They've kissed. Like Felicity's going on this other date, but there still does seem to be something that the writers
Mhm.
have said that there's still something between them. But Felicity tells Sally that she doesn't know why she didn't tell Noel about David. She said, it just didn't seem very important. She says, it's just weird talking about B-list people with an A-list guy. And I know Dr. Joe and Melissa, you're going to roll your eyes and say he's not A-list. But that was my angsty away message of the week. I could see that being a very good vague book post. Like, it's just weird talking about B-list people with an A-list guy. And because I feel like I've talked about the B-list thing throughout my college years, I'm like, that would have been an away message. So that's the end of the episode. So again, like everyone seems to be moving on, yet there is still this something is tying Felicity and Noel together, it seems like, in the story.
Yeah. As I said at the beginning, don't love that. Wish they would have just moved on and
Yeah. I don't think that he's not an
Mhm.
A-list guy. I just still wish she would remember when he was really, really, really intentionally mean to her at the beginning of the season, like, not too long ago, like, a matter of weeks probably, why that's completely fallen out of her head if they're supposed to be friends right now, like, the whole picture and not just the part where, like, oh, he buys somebody gifts when he's into them or,
Mm.
because he got her that book
Mm.
when they were
Mhm.
still friends, like that was it the chemistry book?
Oh, that one, yeah, he also got
Mhm.
her, like, Subway Guide or
Yeah.
something in the first episode, and then you're
Yeah, and,
right,
like,
the chemistry
chocolate and
one.
all that
Yeah, yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
So he does things. He's very capable of being thoughtful and everything, and that's fine. It's just I wish that they wouldn't have her be completely airheaded about it and forget how horribly mean and
Mhm.
nasty he was to her. just a few weeks ago. Like, it hasn't been that long. He's being nice, and now it's like, okay, he's great.
Well, and it's interesting that they're not doing the same between her and Ben. Like, their conversation was super short, and it didn't seem to be that much of a wistfulness
Mhm.
for
Mhm.
Ben. I don't know if it's just because that was fresher, but like you said, like, even just on the friendship front, her and Noel were still fighting, so yeah, it's interesting that the writers decided, like, that they're gonna focus on those 2 and their past again rather than her and Ben still.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a little confusing.
They've got other plans for Ben.
Yeah.
And Noel though, like, they're
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's very confusing.
I do think Noel is an A-list guy, just not with Felicity romantically. Like,
Mm,
he's an A-list guy. So far, he's been an A-list guy with Ruby. I think they have
Mhm.
great chemistry and they're really sweet together. And now he's
Mhm.
starting to be an A-list friend to Felicity again, like he was in the beginning of the first season. I just don't think romantically that it works out for him to be an A-list partner in that way.
just not a
I
good
support
fit for
that.
each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I don't know, now it's almost like it's switched from season 1, I always felt like she was still hung up on Ben and couldn't move on from Ben to really sink in with Noel, and now I feel like she's not moving on from Noel for some reason to move on, like, and be with other guys. It's just very weird, like, how the tables have turned, like, she just a few weeks ago thought that she wanted to be with Ben, and now she's wistful and
Mhm.
kind of jealous over
Yeah.
Noel. It just yeah, it's a little confusing,
Yeah.
like,
That's messy.
why did the writers just have her pick Ben just to now be, like, fixated on Noel again, possibly? It was
Mhm.
very weird. Doesn't
I
make
will
a ton of
say
sense.
I will say this is more of the same from Noel if you think about the first season when he was with Felicity and then he got kinda confused by Hannah, and now he's trying to be with Ruby, and it seems like maybe he's a little something confused about Felicity, so that kinda tracks for him,
Mm.
but on her side, I'm confused why she's acting the way she is and feeling
Mhm.
the way she is and thinking the way she is. That's weird.
Yeah, 'cause she chose Ben, you know?
Mm.
And
Mhm.
so, clearly, there was something not there with Noel, and now you don't remember why. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do we think of the episode title? Obviously, it's the name of the video game that they're playing, but, like, what do you think this crash theme was?
I was hoping you wouldn't ask.
Oh, I'm sorry. Delete.
No,
Edit it
like, I
out.
don't I was struggling with that too because I
Yeah.
was trying to figure that out as well, obviously the reference to the game, right? But
Mm.
I couldn't. The only things that I just kept on noticing, what I already mentioned, was just, like, kinda power control dynamic stuff, but I can't make that fit with
Mm.
Crash. I don't know.
Maybe there's just, like, this sense of impending, like, badness is about to happen, like, you can tell the thing with Ben and Maggie is inappropriate or something's not gonna go
Mm.
right with that, like, nobody's like, "Oh, those 2 are gonna be endgame at the end of this show." Like, we all
Endgame?
know something's not gonna be right there,
Wait,
and
what are you saying?
Alright, spoilers.
Ben and Maggie forever? No?
Yeah, and now this, like, little crush thingy happening with Felicity and Noel again, it's kind of like, "Oh, no, now what?" So
Yeah, to me, I think, like, moving on also seemed to be a theme, which kind of the whole season 2 theme at the beginning here, like, everyone's trying to move on from what happened. But I was thinking about the video game and how they were, like, so obsessed and they couldn't get past the next level, and so I was trying to think of all their other relationships, like, maybe Felicity can't get past her freshman year and those boys
Mm.
and can't take it now to the next level, and so she is stuck in this B-list zone, I don't know, but, like, Ben's moved on, he isn't I don't know, is he still hung up on Felicity, do we think? That's why, like, the conversation was
n
so short. I was like, I
Um,
don't really see him being stuck.
no.
right. I don't
So, yeah,
either.
I couldn't connect the title to, like, one overarching theme. Maybe
Oh,
it was just the video game name.
maybe it's just that
Maybe thinking
simple.
too hard.
Not to, like, bring up the haircut again, but I did wanna say that when I was looking up other stuff at another time, much, much earlier in this process, think I saw that Ben is the only person who never commented on her haircut because it took them so long to see each other, like,
Oh.
you're saying, like, when are they gonna be in a scene together again? And it finally happened, and he's the only one who didn't say anything about it,
Hmm,
and everybody else that she knew did, and strangers did
that's
too,
true.
but I thought that was
I
interesting.
was watching out to see what his reaction was because I couldn't remember. I was like, was he nice about it? Did he laugh at her? I couldn't remember. And there was literally no
Mhm.
mention of it. So, yeah,
Mhm.
I do think in real life, Carrie Russell and Scott Speedman were dating at some
Yes.
point, and he supposedly did not like it in real
Yeah,
life.
he didn't know how to react to that.
Shocker.
Yeah.
But that's all I heard about a Ben reaction was a Speedman reaction.
Yeah. I thought that was cool, though, that he didn't make a big deal out of it, like, they were just talking like normal people.
I would have been shocked that like, "Oh, it's you. Oh," you know, like, not even
Yeah,
really
like,
like
that would have made sense if he
yeah.
was surprised and did say something, but he didn't, like, he just acted like, "Hey, we're coworkers, we're friends," like, he was trying to, be mindful and thoughtful about, like, "Is it okay that I'm working? Like, is that a problem?" Like, I don't know if he would have gone home or what, but he seemed to be interested in how she felt about it.
I didn't really have a hottest Ben moment. I don't know, because it was just creepy with Maggie, so,
Mm.
I mean,
Aw,
I guess the tart thing? I don't
when he had
know.
the little cream on his nose. But that was so
Mm,
forceful and aggressive too.
Yeah.
maybe just the funny
I
stuff.
think the door slam.
Well,
Or
that was
yeah.
hot, but, like, the funny, like, the smooth A stuff where he was, like, kinda protecting her from Sean's
How about the edible phase?
yeah,
That was
yeah,
fun.
yeah, that was cute.
Yeah, that
Funny's
was
hot.
funny.
Yes.
I had no hot Noel moments because he was
Mhm.
not
It was ridiculous.
showering and playing video games, so
Yeah.
he was acting B-list. Alrighty, well, thanks everyone for joining us once again. We will talk to you all in a couple weeks.
Bye.
Bye.
Felicity Was Here is produced, written, and edited by Heather, Melissa, and Dr. Joe. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Felicity Was Here Pod. If you're enjoying the pod, please leave us a review and help us spread the word. We appreciate you and would love to hear from Felicity superfans like us. So send us your feedback, ask us your burning questions, or just say hey at felicitywasherepod@gmail.com. We may even read your note in a future episode.